Welcome, everyone. We are back live with the Managed Service Provider Association of America. I'm your host, Mike. This episode, we're going all the way down to Texas. We got our guest, Stephen Sweeney from Uprite Services. Stephen, thanks for joining the show.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
All right, give us the 30-second opener. Tell us about Uprite and how's it going in Texas?
Oh, it is a great day to be in Texas. Always. Every day is a great day to be in Texas. Upright Services, we're an IT services firm. We're headquartered in Houston, which is where I'm sitting. We serve other major markets in the state like Dallas, Austin, and San Antonio. And we've been in business for 20 some odd years, 22 plus years. We're a full service MSP, so that means we focused on IT managed services for what we call the SMB, which we can talk about later as a pretty broad, ambiguous term, but say up to 100 employees, and then we also have SSP services, so security services that we position to the mid market, which we define as roughly 100 to 500 employees. So a very different market segment with some very different needs and some very different buying processes and executives that we have to interact with.
Let's break that down because you're well experienced in this business. You've been doing it for 22 years. A lot of managed service providers will say they serve the SMB market, which is like 15 million businesses. So, there are many colors in that rainbow. How do you segment it? Like, how do you think about the different portions of the SMB behemoth when
Yeah,
you're looking at
you're
clients that
right.
you
I mean,
serve?
SMB is a label. I mean, I think every MSP, is thinking about the SMB market somewhat differently. And we could certainly start to stratify it into the lower SMB, the middle SMB, the upper SMB. I think what we're looking for is companies that would be a really good long-term partner. And I'm more of a student of business, right? I'm a technologist, but I came from the business side, and I like doing business with companies who are business minded, who are mature in their thinking and are challenging, the assumptions that are in their business of finding ways to grow and finding ways to be innovative. And that's where I feel like we Upright can play a valuable role, because that's the kind of partner we're trying to be. So that uh, again, business owners or even executives who willing to sit down and have a conversation about their business and how technology can possibly be an enabler. Those are the clients that are a great fit for us, because we are focused on business outcomes, not just
Mm-hmm.
resolving IT issues and procuring hardware and software for our clients.
Right. The IT is the means to the end. The end is achieving some business outcome, making more money, getting new clients, opening a new division. Those are the end goals. The computers, the hardware, the firewalls are all the means to the end.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think history would show that companies that invest more in technology, and I'm using like technology very broadly, are the companies that are most innovative. They're the companies that perform better, the ones that survive and thrive in their markets. So, we at Upright are trying to be kind of an essential partner in those kinds of relationships.
What's the hot topic of the last year or 2 years? Either like big challenges that your clients are trying to solve or new achievements that they're reaching for.
Well, I mean, certainly, like the buzzword of the day is artificial intelligence. Cybersecurity certainly has not diminished. I mean, that's dominated the conversation for a long while. You know, I mean, we at Upright, we consider ourselves an IT modernization company, which is a pretty broad statement, but the thrust of it is we want to help a client modernize their IT in whatever area that helps them to be more competitive and more successful overall. So, modernization maybe 5 years ago was about enabling the cloud, right? And
Mm-hmm.
whether it's migrating people to the cloud due to COVID, or maybe we were doing it before then or after then, because the hardware business is starting to transition, or it's not started to, it's been transitioning for a long time into a more cloud-based service model. Then certainly cybersecurity has been a major talking point for our clients. We here in the South, or I guess the Gulf Coast, are always having conversations about business continuity because we have weather events. And then now more recently, it's been conversations about AI and how artificial intelligence is going to change or affect their markets. And
And
that,
like, how does that manifest for your clients? Because it is a total buzzword. Like, I hear a lot of people say AI, and then I'll ask them like, what are you using it for? Like, what does it do? And aside from chatting with ChatGPT for fun, there's no like tangible. Oh, I use it for this workflow, and it helps me do this. So
yeah,
like,
it's a very
how's it
interesting
manifesting
question.
with your
It's a
clients?
very interesting question, and um, it's good to think about the market the way you talked about earlier. That you have the SMB and the small mid-sized businesses. They're going to be reliant on their tool vendors, right? Their software vendors to AI infuse the software that they use to run their business. So if they have an ERP of some sort, right, for their industry, that vendor is going to be finding ways to use AI to make that software package more valuable to them. And they're going to have to do that to be competitive, right? Because everybody in the space is going to be trying to push artificial intelligence capabilities into those tools. And Uprite, our goal is to be a guide, right? Is to help guide them through, what right now I would consider awareness, right? Awareness of what are the capabilities of AI. What are some of the concerns that a business would need to have about using AI? Particularly around security, because you're right. People are using ChatGPT to do a number of things, but are they using that in a secure way or a way that the company would approve as good governance? There's this concept of shadow IT, which is IT that your employees are using that you're not aware of, right? That you aren't actively managing as a company. And so there are a number of issues that we can have, issues and conversations we can have with clients to make them aware and start to take advantage of the things that are available to them. And then also making them aware that the larger companies, so mid-market and up, I mean, they're making significant investments in AI, right? I mean, and that is always a competitive threat, right? When you have larger companies that are maybe in your space that have the resources to invest directly in AI solutions. So, I think it's incumbent on, us guys in the lower market, the smaller mid-sized businesses, to do what we can to be competitive and be in a place where we, stay competitive as the bigger companies make progress.
You're preaching to the choir here because I like when you said ERP and the CRM. That's what I'm chewing on right now, even for my own business, because I see that as a time saver of using AI. And really, by AI, I mean like it's helping us triage leads and go through our meeting notes and then remind me, hey, you got 3 leads here that you need to follow up with. That's my tangible use case. I
Mhm.
was just looking in my calendar of places that I spend a lot of time doing repetitive work and try and use some AI product to replace the repetitive work. That's how I'm manifesting it. Do you see that same thing with your clients?
Yeah, I think for sure. I mean, generative AI, to help in sales and marketing, to create documents, to create to proactively remind. I mean, those are the kind of the baseline use cases that we see
Mhm.
with clients. And
What do you see the juicier stuff?
well, the juicier stuff, I think it's not quite there yet. I mean, I think the idea is it's called the concept is called agentic AI,
Mhm.
and AI agents that you train to do things that were kind of repetitive, automated tasks, almost like an employee, right? Like an agent that is an employee, but in a way that interacts with other AI agents, in your business. And again, this is very blue sky,
Mhm.
conceptual, but I think it's pretty much a consensus that this is the direction things are headed for the next stage of AI evolution, right? So, a use case maybe in our industry would be, looking at things that we would love to do, but we don't have time to do, right? Because we don't have the resources to do them, right? So, an example might be, we would love to listen to every recording between a client and one of our technicians, right? As a QA, mechanism, right? A QA process. But we don't have time to do that, and probably no big company has time to listen to every recording. But I could certainly foresee, a solution out there where an AI agent is listening to every recording of a conversation and is reporting back valuable information, like did our employee follow a process, right? The process that we outlined on how they interact with the user. Were there any emotions that were stirred up in that conversation? Did the end user get agitated? Did the technician get agitated? And can we use that information to coach, guide, and improve our process? So, that would be a voice recording QA agent, right? And I could see again more kind of these sort of agent technologies being used in different parts of the business to help create a better user experience, a better business outcome.
So let's say that one of your clients, like a 50 employee company, let's say they're providing service, maybe it's a call center or something, and they say, Stephen, we want that coaching call support agent. Would you point them to whatever CRM they're using, or ServiceNow that they're using to facilitate this, and look to the vendor, or would you recommend that they develop something in-house?
That's a great question. So having come from the app dev world, I think that custom app development is challenging, and it's certainly fraught with expense and risk. So if I were consulting a client on this, I would certainly want to look to the market first. Are there technologies that are available that you could buy as opposed to build it yourself? And certainly the software vendor would be a place to start. But again, we Uprite, right? We're an IT modernization company. We're trying to create business outcomes for our clients. Part of that responsibility is having a network of partners that we work with. When someone does have a specialized question like that we can introduce, someone who could help, right? Because we can't be everything to everybody, but we want to be, the place where the client starts, the conversation starts about technology.
Right. And that's a healthy position to be in. Like, they trust you to do a lot of tech stuff. This new AI is all bucketed into the same, this is a tech thing, so might as well ask Steven. So that they're guided position of trust here.
Right. Yeah, and you've a lot about our industry. You've spoken to many business owners and executives like myself, and you probably know that. I mean, there's no other service that is as intimate as an MSP service, right? I mean, you don't have this kind of relationship with your attorney. You don't have it with your CPA. I mean, you don't have another vendor who's working with your users every day, right? Who's working in your systems every day to make them more secure. I mean, it really is the most intimate managed service that a company could engage, and it's a huge decision, right? And which is why we invest so much in trying to pick the right partners, right? The right clients for us. I mean, we're trying to find a really good match for what we do, how we do it, our values, and et cetera. But when you do find that partner, that really strong client partner, you're in the right. You're doing a good job when that's the conversation you're having, right? You have that level of relationship where they're asking you those kind of questions.
All right, you've been doing this for 22 years. We're talking about new stuff like security and AI. That's all new. What hasn't changed in 2 decades?
Well, what hasn't changed is that companies want outcomes, right? They want a partner who can generate and help them with business outcomes. And it all started, in IT services, right? It all started with productivity, right? They still want their employees to be productive. They still want no surprises, right? They want a infrastructure that is stable, and and by now, like at this point, no surprises has been extended to, they don't want cybersecurity surprises, they don't want disaster recovery surprises, they don't want budgetary surprises. So for us, it's interesting. I mean, I feel like we've known all along what clients want, but we haven't had necessarily the capability to deliver them, or we haven't had clients who knew they had that want and that need. And the industry's matured a lot, in the last it's probably 7 to 10 years, and you don't run into quite as many clients who don't understand where there's a lot of value when they have the right vendor in place. So those things have become table stakes. But the good news is, if you're a mature MSP, you should be able to deliver on them.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, Stephen, great to hear your story. Thanks for putting in the effort for 23 years. Jeez, that's a long time.
Yeah, don't ask me to do 23 more, please.
It's like, it's always curious to think what our lives are going to be like 23 years from now. But I think one thing we can bank on is that there's always going to be businesses that need computer support. Like, aside from resetting passwords and stuff, they're going to need a guide, because not everyone has the same intimate love of technology as we do, but they still want to achieve the business outcomes, which rely on technology, unless we're going back to vacuum tubes, but hopefully that doesn't happen, because that'd be a catastrophe.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and
No
this
doubt.
is the service way that we will continue to deliver, connecting people with the business outcome, using technologies to make our lives better.
Couldn't say it better
Excellent.
myself.
Here we go. All right, Stephen Sweeney, CEO of Uprite Services, calling in from Texas. Thanks for joining the podcast live with the Managed Service Provider Association of America. I'm your host, Mike. See you on the next show.